everybody, and hello, and welcome to Sunny Redemption Sailing, Season 2, your bi-weekly-ish Voyage through gaming news without BS. So, what the heck is going on over at NetEase? with the layoffs.
What? Oh, I didn't hear about that.
You didn't hear about the Marvel Rivals layoffs? Well, the entire U.S. development
Oh,
team
yes, I did. Yes, I did. Okay, yes. Yep, okay. I did hear a little about that. I didn't get time. I think I just saw a headline while I was at work, but couldn't really check in on it.
Well, there's been two types of reactions to this tragic news. One, very understandable indignation, which is what me and most people share, and then a few weirdos who are like, it's just 7 people, they're based in China anyway. What does it matter? Well, it matters because these people are very experienced at designing games and balancing them. So, it seems like what they're doing with a game that has 40 million players and 300,000 daily concurrent users on Steam, peak, is, they're just, like, developing it, and then just, like, maintaining it with a cheaper team, which could work in theory, but, well, the first time that Chinese gaming had a true AAA game was Wukong, and, that was recently. Chinese teams are not particularly known for quality, especially on live service games. There we go! This is part of Season of Thieves of Sea of Thieves, for those who don't know, which has lots of new goodies for the Hunter's Call, like hunting new ancient megalodons. So that must be the voyage thing. Oh, this is the find a
this one's... Yeah, I'm curious about the fishing voyages, how those work. It's like, okay, so you just have a little spot. Yeah, that would make sense. Do you need specific bait for these ones? I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure if these, like, maybe the fish just spawn and you don't need bait for them. It'd be worth grabbing a bait crate, I guess.
But yeah, like, it's just so ridiculous because, like, this game already is adding new heroes. That feels like that should involve some sort of game design.
Anything you want to tell me.
Like
yeah, I mean,
abilities and stuff.
Come back for a chat.
So the thing is, they're firing. They let go a lot of the people that were on like the Western side of things, right? That were developing.
Yeah.
The game. That's sort of the big thing. So yeah, I guess that is like. I think from the NetEase perspective, it's like, hey, we got our big money out of this. We have the license. We have the money from it. Why do we need to keep... I don't know. Like, I guess somewhat it remains to be seen, but it's probably not a great sign.
Yeah, especially when they're gaslighting their fan base by saying we're investing in our game more, not less. Which is like, make it make sense.
Yeah. By the way, I just realized we can't actually bring this crate if we die, so whatever.
Oh, okay. Well. Oh, so are we diving, or?
Yeah, I just want to check out one of these fishing voyages because I've always been curious about how they'd actually implement something like this. Because they did have a limited time voyage back when Hunter's Call was kind of new, where they had like I think we definitely did a couple of them. Where they had like fishing type voyages and they never really implemented them, so I'm curious to see. It seemed pretty similar to how they were back then, but that was like 5 years ago, so.
Oh, and before I forget, this episode is dedicated to Viktor Antonov, who died recently, and it's been a huge influence for me because Dishonored was awesome, and
oh, okay, yes, I didn't know the name, but I did see that news, yeah. The Half-Life and Dishonored guy. Yeah, he had some really, really great art design.
Oh. Well, that really sucks, all of it. Because he was just 52. It sucks when anybody dies young like that. Especially someone so talented who I'm sure was working on some stuff, so there will be lagging effects in the game development world. But I'm guessing he wasn't involved in Half-Life 3, or if he was, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, creativity in the game industry is under threat when the big money is going to mobile developers. Like monopolygo apparently wants to buy pokemongo for $3.5 billion, and that would be.
Yeah, I saw that. We might take some damage here, by the way.
That would be a Saudi Arabia-based gaming company, by the way, for the former. Escape is in the form of Stokely, which is already kind of sus.
Yeah, I know them from some of my friends who play old school RuneScape, and they sound like they've been a mess for that stuff. They own that now. That's the one way that I really know them. Is that they're just one of those private investment things that really try to bring the money out of things, and Pokemon Go had already been kind of going in that direction. Like, I still play it on a semi-regular basis, but I barely spend any money on it. I maybe spend $5 to $10 a year. So, yeah, but they've given plenty of, like, pretty much every event that they run, because they've always run events in the game, but, like, the past few years, like, maybe 3 years or so, they've basically added, like, paid versions of basically all the events. So, and they sort of, like, been devaluing a lot of the free events in favor of the paid ones, so I can only see that trend getting worse under new management.
Still, by the way.
Oh, we do? Okay, so that doesn't get lost when you die. Cool. Good to know. Okay. So I'm trying to decipher what... So, there is a circled spot on this map. I'm guessing that's where we need to fish, but it also says it's found in fertile island waters, so I guess you have to be close enough to the island that you're still kind of within its territory. Let's try to figure this out. So it's like east of the island, over here. I just don't know if there's any way, like marker of where we're supposed to be.
Our ship keeps breaking. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
The holes that are patched up are from past voyages, though, people. Not that bad at maintaining the ship. I just keep forgetting to...
Wait, is that... Okay, there is a little glowing spot out there. Okay, that must be where we have to fish. Yeah, you see right ahead of us? Look right directly ahead of us.
Well, now I should repair, but,
Yeah. Alright, so that must be where we have to fish. Let me just keep the boat up slightly more. Because these sorts of voyages are definitely the type that I'd love to do more of if we get the hang of them, because I've always enjoyed fishing in these games. For this game.
Plus, of course,
they're adding...
Hunt a giant shark.
Yeah, the Megalodon stuff is cool. I'm just not that into the ship combat all the time, so, like, I kind of prefer the more sedate activities a lot of the time.
Perfect for talking
about
a bunch of gaming news.
We're right within the area, and I see the big fish that I think we're going for. So we can just go off the back of the boat or something, hopefully catch it.
Wait, what?
I don't know if we need specific bait or something. I parked us a little bit ahead of that spot, so we should be able to just... I don't know if we need bait. I wonder if it'll tell us if we need specific bait. There we go, Treasured Blossom Ancient Scale. It went right onto my rod.
Okay, well...
I'm guessing this is what we want since it auto-spawned.
Alright, you keep fishing that. Okay, so... This feels of a piece, the whole Monopoly Go thing with the NetEase stuff, because it's treating games as a commodity, as just a product to have maximal value extracted and then taken out. I mean, like, it makes this for instance, for Xbox to have games in as many places as possible, but there is something special that is being lost slightly, by just, this game is a product, it will be on $1 for 1 year, and then it will be elsewhere, and then we will get the max value out of it. Like, that is a strategy for a software maker, but it's like, well, we'll get more into it over time, but like, it just feels as though something is being drained out of it. out of gaming in general, just in the pursuit of any profits in this ridiculous, chaotic environment that we have. Such a weird industry, for instance, road director of Marvel Rivals, Thaddeus Sasser on LinkedIn. Apparently his job title is now, I create billion-dollar franchises. The idea that a stellar, talented team just created a game and just got laid off, how are people going to really feel like they have a long-term future in this industry? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's always kind of been that way. It's always been kind of like churning the young developers until they burn out of the industry, but it definitely isn't getting any better.
I remember the whole EA letter back in like 2004 about, oh, my husband worked for you guys and now he's burnt out and you laid him off in your palace and that kind of thing. It's just that now there's this pressure to make things faster all the time. And to plug the gaps with whatever you can. Like, I'm curious to see how the Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 remaster turns out, because I'm not sure like what production schedule it had. It was reportedly being worked on by Vicarious Visions, and then they got merged into Blizzard, so that...
Yeah, but that was all pre-Microsoft, so I feel like at some point Microsoft stepped in and said, let's not throw everything into the Blizzard basket, let's have an actual autonomous team, and maybe kind of pulled back on some of that, and got some of those people who maybe had been working on it back. I don't know. That's the only way I can think of for it to actually happen. Like, they must have had at least a decent chunk of it done. They've probably been working on it before 1 and 2 Remastered even came out, and they must have been able to get enough people in there to clean it up and get it done.
But did
I'm super excited about.
Manage to get to resume the work that was done before, or did they have to?
I would assume so. I mean, I don't think it's been like that was like 2020 when that game came out. You know, it's been 4 or 5 years, and you're not making, especially if they're still making them for the older consoles. Like, it's not like they're having to upend the whole pipeline. They probably had a lot of that work done for the 1 and 2 remaster, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
So that's why it was such a logical thing. Like, oh, of course that's the next thing they're going to do, and people were expecting that to be the next thing that they did. And then it was so bizarre when, like, that just didn't come to fruition. Like, it was such an obvious jump. Like, they can do 3 to 4, and then if they want to, they have a natural ramp to do Underground 1 and 2 next. Like, those are definitely games that people would love to see back. They have big, like, fan communities still.
Speaking of, that kind of thing, though, of getting old games working again, that was one of the uses that was being floated for in the unlisted, for some reason, video about Muse. Whoa, the server changed happening already. Their discussion of it, Muse is described as a tool that allows for a greater understanding of a 3D game world. Just like you can analyze existing gameplay and then recreate it in tiny GIFs that they showed for some reason.
Yeah, it's... I would love to hear from more actual developers about this being a useful use of time for Microsoft to do. because I'm far from convinced of it being anything more than a trifle or waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the uses that they claimed was that older games could be analyzed and reconstructed without the original engine present, which sounds interesting. But it's like
that that sounds interesting in theory, but they've already been doing backward compatibility. Why do we need, like, unless you can get the game working 1-to-1, that's meaningless from a preservation perspective. Like, to me, it's like they're talking about, like, oh, we can preserve games with better. It's like you can preserve an AI's hallucination of it better. Sure, that's great, but like, if I want to go back and play an old game, I'll go back and play an old game, not some weird reinterpretation of it.
it's so that when they do tackle backward compatibility, they can have the ability to let useless people on it. That's what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the main kicker there. Is, of course, it's going to be,
because somebody will just polish it up.
Yeah, but I'm very unconvinced that it's going to be a worthwhile use of anyone's time. Like, I just don't understand the use case for it. From the perspective of someone who wants to play video games, I don't want to play a thing that a machine spat out.
Then a machine spat out and then some intern polished up to look as close as possible to the game, because they have to do the work of 5 people using this one tool. That and the world human NPCs makes me very nervous about what AI hallucination gameplay is like. But again, we would probably not see it as hallucination. It would be like, okay, this person got it to this point after the machine got it 95% of the way there. And is that 5% really enough to actually call something a video game? Like a game made for humans by humans? Not really. I don't think so. Anyway. I mean, it's still early research. It's just that, well, Ninja Theory was like, hey, sure, nobody's playing Bleeding Edge, might as well have an AI look at it. Apparently, there will be interactive AI game experiences for you to try on Copilot Labs very soon. So I guess it's for people who are tinkering in Azure Foundry? At least for right now?
Yes, it's... Again, I just do not see any utility in AI-created games as a player. I'm willing to be wrong in 5 or 10 years, but as of now, I'm like, same thing as any of the other AI stuff that's happening, where it's like, oh, an AI-assisted book or movie. It's like, I would rather see things created by people, even if the quality is somehow lesser on a technical scale.
As a sidebar, we were just having this sort of debate on a writing forum, and I was like, writing was how I expressed myself when people didn't allow me to. So the idea that
putting
people
your
would
voice
want to
down, by the way.
replace that effort, they just would want to be entertained by a story, which I suppose makes sense. But like, how to put it? It's like having keys dangled in front of you by an invisible puppet string. It's entertaining in that sense, but if you're doing it yourself, why not just do it yourself? If you're playing a game made by people, that has intentionality. A machine cannot possibly do intention. Cannot.
There's inherent value to a thing created by a person. I see no inherent value to something spat out by AI. That's the end-all be-all for me. It's like, if once I find out something's been created by AI, if it's not obvious enough, which it usually is, that's like immediate lack of interest for me.
And really, what's going on
I don't see that changing.
Is that people have lied and said that AI is the great equalizer. Oh, we should both say is that AI is supposed to be the great equalizer, but really the big companies will just use AI tools to maintain their dominance forever by just copying everything. Like, again, it's interesting that they're training it on their games, but that just means we're gonna get derivative games at some point. Because while we're getting very good games at a good pace right now, what happens if that one game every 3 months or so pace slips and they're just like, just quickly generate a DLC or something?
Yeah, that's definitely like the worst case scenario for me, is a company panicking and deciding that they have to put out some AI game to juice the revenue or whatever. That's definitely like that would be like, I'm pretty ride or die for Game Pass, but if they started using Game Pass and actively putting AI games on there, that would be probably a more cancellation worthy thing for me.
Oh, yeah, well, that would...
Like, if you guys don't think you have enough value, if you don't have enough value for your subscription service to curate it in some way and keep that stuff out of there, then I don't feel cool about subscribing to it. That's pretty...
that they're going to differentiate their hardware with hardware features. But everything that they've been pointing to so far about next-gen consoles indicates that it's going to bolt Xbox to basically make an Xbox the Windows of gaming, where you kind of hate it, but you have to use it because your library is there, and there's so many games. That just doesn't feel very good to me. Maybe there's just some old buddy part of me when it comes to gaming, and it feels weird.
Yeah, I mean, for me, at the end of the day, if a console can remain console-ish enough while trying to straddle that line of also operating in a decent ecosystem, then like that's fine by me. They've already been halfway there with it, so I just hope that if that is where they're going for their next console, then they can make it a pretty seamless transition. Where, you know, backwards compatibility is a big thing for me.
Here's what I'm worried about, though. Basically, the reason that the PS5 ports are continuing to go is not just because it brings more money to Xbox, which is great, you know, that's very neutral to good by itself. But it also hasn't drawn people away from Xbox, which sounds like a good thing on the face. But here's the thing: this means that they now realize that we're stuck with the hardware that they have, with the ecosystem that they have, and that means they're not trying as hard with the ecosystem particularly. They do have really good games again, and I want to get to talking about Avowed because I'm super excited about that. But I
played like 2 hours of that, but yeah.
But the problem is that if Avowed is just a game, then why is it on this box? Like, why didn't I just hang on to my old Xbox One and do cloud streaming if they're doing that now? You know, like, there has to be something unique about a product in order to sell it, and we'll see what that is. But I just don't know what that is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Sony and Nintendo aren't letting Game Pass onto their platforms, I would say that's a decent differentiator. But, like, I think that alone could be a reason for Microsoft to keep making consoles, you know? Because a lot of their Game Pass users are primarily console players, so like Game Pass PC has been doing okay, but not like setting the world on fire, and it seems like the attach rate for Game Pass to console users is incredibly high in comparison, so if they want to keep Game Pass being what it is, then it seems useful for them to have this sort of closed ecosystem where they can keep selling it to an engaged user base.
Phil Spencer said in a recent interview that yeah, we would love to have to get 100% of the profits of the game on a system. So of course they want to keep that going. But it's like,
yeah.
okay, jack of all trades, master of which? You know what I mean? Like, where's the vision other than just reacting to trends and figuring it out later? Like, clearly, even if there are a bunch of new platforms added, Game Pass just isn't growing the way that they want it to. So, if this coming year, they fire next year, and then they don't have any unique games for it, they're not going to sell a bunch of hardware for it, because there's been barely enough games for the Series X generation. So, will that keep the growth flat for such an expensive piece of hardware? Will that be the last time that they
I mean,
care to do that?
I definitely don't see the the next iteration of the Xbox selling more in a dramatic way. It's just a matter of are they okay with flattening console sales where they have sort of established baseline of these are the people who will continue to buy our consoles regardless of how many pure exclusives we have, because they've already sort of been competing with themselves in the PC space from most of the Xbox One generation onward, where they've had their Play Anywhere stuff. So this has just kind of been an extension of that, where they now have they're competing against players who are entrenched enough in another ecosystem that they're not going to move over to Xbox, but hey, we can get them to buy some Xbox games at least.
Yes, this is true, and that is a good thing, but with everybody comfortable in their own lane, nobody's actually competing on prices or of games, or prices of hardware, and that's an overall net negative for the consumer when it comes to the console hardware in particular, because everybody's their own
I do wonder. Yeah, I do think about the fact that the PS5 Pro launched at $700, which is crazy for console, and it's like if Microsoft had done their own half step and launched it cheaper, it probably would have forced Sony to drive that price down. But Sony's unopposed this generation in having that half step console, so hey, and the PS5 is already outselling the Xbox in a high enough way that it's like they can kind of do that without too many repercussions. So yeah, it's definitely true that having the console space be less of a battleground can actually yield, not make companies fight on that stuff.
Especially when there's so many games still that are arriving service, and then one new game comes along that breaks into that mold, but then cuts corners, like with Marvel Rivals. Still mad about this, though can't really add too much more than what people have already said. So, the problem is that Sony is coasting, and yet the PS5 Pro was the bright spot for PS5 sales last year, according to that same article by Eurogamer, if I remember correctly.
I've definitely been proven wrong on my. I definitely thought 700 was probably too high, and I also felt like the PlayStation Portal, when it came out, I was like, who's going to actually want this? But that's been selling very well too. So it's like, okay, Sony's found a market for both a $700 console and a $300, I believe, cloud streaming portable, where it's like I just don't see the value in that, but clearly people do. So I don't know. Good for them.
People like buying shiny things, who knew?
Yeah.
And people who work for Sony apparently like sending explicit text messages. According to the Bungie game director.
Oh, the Bungie guy. Yeah, I saw a headline about that. Yeah.
Christopher Barrett, why? like, what is it about game directors sometimes, or just directors in general, where they have, like, this popularity complex that makes them think they can get away with everything?
Yeah.
We've seen this lately with Justin Baldoni as well, so if you guys are interested in watching stuff about that, I'll have a live stream about that this weekend as part of the Hidden Fate, a truly definitive investigations of the Hidden Fate. That plug's over. So, more examples of Sony hurting itself in confusion include, what the heck went on with the outage? I know we're not exactly timely on that right now, but...
Yeah, I think if the outage had been more than a day, I think it would be more worth getting up in arms about. And I think they did
I'm just curious
what they...
at this point, then.
Yeah, I guess it was probably some sort of DDoS, if I had to guess, where they had to shut it down to protect private information, because last time that Sony had, the big 2011 outage, that was one of the big things, is millions of users got a lot of their info compromised, and Sony was really on the back foot for that one, so I'm sure they kind of just froze up. If I had to guess, again, this is all speculation, but if I had to guess, they probably got DDoS pretty badly and shut it all down until they could, lock things down so that they didn't have a similar situation as 2011. Because I think a lot of the thing about the 2011 hack was not so much the service being, the service was down and Sony got compromised in a big way, but Sony probably could have brought it back up sooner, but they were worried about more sensitive information getting out.
I did not remember.
You don't want the sales all the way down.
Oh.
They're just sailing to this other fishing spot.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. The problem was...
Yeah, because...
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because I remember with the 2011 hack, the actual... I think you just go until the fishing spot disappears on the map. Yeah, so there's two.
Oh, okay,
I guess there was still one left back there, but I didn't see any more actual fish. Yeah, I remember the Sony outage. I think after the fact, I want to say they came out and were like, yeah, the actual outage was not as much of a thing as, needing to keep the service down because of how badly it was compromised, rather than the service being actively DDoS for 30 days or whatever.
Yeah, and I think...
It was it suffered a heavy... Oh yeah, companies get this all the time, it's just a matter of if they're able to fend it off. And sometimes they are in a way where they're sure that nothing's been compromised, and maybe in this latest Sony outage, maybe they weren't sure and they needed to just... You kind of just have to pull back your services until you're sure that everything's good. So I have a feeling that's probably what happened, but with the lack of any Sony saying anything, who knows?
Yeah, that's the part that had me going, huh?
Yeah.
Why didn't they explain that if it was such a tiny thing?
Yeah,
It made me think at first that there was some intern who fell asleep on a button or something, but
yeah. And
yeah, no.
Not to overly defend Sony on this, because an outage for paying customers is bad, but
they did give
I feel
5 days.
they gave 5 days for 1 day of outage. That's pretty reasonable. Yeah. And again, this is probably more of a thing for people who are newer to games or newer to just online gaming in general. But back in the day, Sony or PSN and Xbox Live would go out on a monthly basis for at least a day.
Well,
so it's
okay. Well, that was
maybe,
and I called myself an old gamer.
I remember the week I got my Xbox, Christmas 2007, Xbox Live was down for over a week. And you know what they gave people? A $5 Xbox Live arcade game.
Wow.
So I think expectations have changed, and especially in the case of Sony, back in the day when PSN would go down, the justification would be, that was before they were charging for any of it. So it was it's a free service. You can't expect 100% uptime. But, that's always been different for Xbox Live, where they've always had Xbox Live Gold, and now Sony has PlayStation Plus and everything. So I think, and just the volume of games that rely on online connectivity has gone dramatically up, so the outages are much more glaring when they happen.
It's also possible that people's expectations around actual personal privacy have changed in the 14 years since the PSN outage of 2011 because,
Yeah.
well, currently, an unelected billionaire has access to all of her social security information.
Mhm.
So, it's not... And people who were saying about TikTok, well, who cares? At least Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have the information. Who cares if it's China? Like, America does it too. Why are you getting all up in arms about TikTok? I mean, that can be slightly facetious, or just, like, not very well founded in facts. Because, well, for one thing, TikTok did not have... It was not shown that TikTok had massively exported people's data. It's just that the back door was always there, kind of lurking in the background and posed a lot of national security problems. But, instead of making a comprehensive data law, we just decided to go after one app. So, this is basically the oh well generation when it comes to our privacy, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is really, like, you know, you can do your best to try to protect your personal privacy with 2 or 3-step verification for things, but a lot of that stuff, like, it's so impossible to keep track of on an individual basis. So I think a lot of that stuff has just been kind of forsaken by a lot of people.
Speaking of forsaken,
There have definitely been times, like, I've got emails about, like, oh, your info on this thing's been compromised. It's like, alright, I'll just change my password and hope nobody got anything good out of it.
yeah, I have several passwords I'm supposed to update, and have not. I hope people will not. It doesn't seem like people have guys in my credit because of the ghost trap either, so. But speaking of forsaken, crytek is also undergoing layoffs. And,
Oh yeah, I saw a headline about that. Crytek's 4.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, come on. About 60 people or 15% of the company's workforce. And that comes after the game director said, no, it's left in November. So, that's not great. When your game director, when you launch a game, I don't know what other graphics Crytek has going on. Maybe they were...
I mean, they're still doing Showdown. That's the only
that's
thing.
what I was gonna say. Maybe they got a good bunch of money from Microsoft for Game Pass for that. And I'm betting also that the news around Rise coming to Xbox One games, Xbox Cloud games that you own, or whatever it's called, that was because they reached an agreement on that, which is the first I've heard of any agreement related to Rise since the sequel was canceled over creative differences. But like, yeah, the only game that they have currently in development is Racers 4. And Shutdown is from 2019, so the other game that they made recently was Decline 2 back in 2020, and
I don't even know what that is.
so Decline was an interesting little project for the Oculus.
I think I have seen that one. Okay, I didn't realize that was Crytek.
Yeah, they had a bit of a streak there. Oh well, I'm wrong. It went to Windows, so probably VR first, and then came to Oculus in 2019. I just remember getting it on my Quest 2 back around like 2022 or so. And I think I got the Climb 2, but never played it. That's how little I use my Quest. They had a bit of a streak going on with that. I remember playing Robinson the Journey on PSVR. That was actually really cool, but of course, that one, it just does not work anymore. Even if you have PSVR 1 linked up to PS5, it's not backwards compatible. It's one of the few games that's not backwards compatible.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
And it sucks because seems like a really cool one that would have really benefited from from a PSVR2 version. But like, there were a couple of interesting PSVR2 games announced at the State of Play. Let me just actually pull up what was, because it's been a minute. Let's see. I mean, in the meantime, the outage really does show how much we don't really own our games, as one person lamented from Polygon. It's just like, this is all very ephemeral, unfortunately. At least both Microsoft and Steam have updated their terms around. This is just a license. You know, you don't actually own the game. But we've been misled for years about this, and it makes me slightly sad. I mean, it's also like, what can you do? Because I have 1,800 games on Xbox. But, well, I guess just talk about your impressions of the State of Play.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, for me, the highlight was probably Shinobi, honestly. Like, that was like a really slick 2D action game, which is what I'd kind of want from a new Shinobi. Also the first new Shinobi since like 2011, so that's cool. Interested to see like how they diverge from old Shinobi, because old Shinobi, honestly, going back to play it is kind of slow and plodding. I like those games, but compared to like the 2D Ninja Gaidens, they're a little bit more unresponsive, I guess.
Yeah. So a lot of that can be like, oh, this is the game as you remember it, versus the game as it actually was.
Yeah, because I love the Genesis Shinobi games, but they're definitely not, like, a lot of people when they think of Shinobi, they're probably thinking of Ninja Gaiden instead. Because Ninja Gaiden, the three NES Ninja Gaiden games are very fast and fluid, like straightforward platforming games, action, but Shinobi's a lot more of like stand here, swipe at an enemy, use your different attacks. It's a bit, I don't know. Like, I've gone back and played them in the past decade, so I've definitely gone back and gone like, this game's still all right, but not quite as good as
I lost the fish.
I remember.
Darn it. Oh well.
Yeah, I just hopped onto the island to try to fish from here. It might be a bit easier.
Well, for me, the show was a bit more blah, because a lot of it was third-party stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that I got notifications about third-party stuff coming to Xbox. I mean, like, that trailer for Split Fiction was, like, the final deciding factor for me to pre-order that game. I can't wait to play with you on stream.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm totally down to play that day one pretty much, or whenever I'm free around when it comes out.
But, like, people in the chat at the time were like, where's the Bloodborne remaster? Why is never look at the chat for those things. That's the worst place to source opinions about any live streamed video game event. Well, I mean, that was slightly facetious to bring up, but it's just like, it does beg the question of why Days Gone, specifically, getting a remaster.
I guess the thinking is probably, hey, this game's not getting a sequel, let's at least do something with it while it's still, 5 or so years old, 6 years old, however long. Like, let's at least get something out of it. And that's kind of one of the last things I think that they had from the PS4 generation that they haven't given a good upgrade to. Bloodborne aside, obviously, but that's a whole different piece. But, like, that's definitely one of the big... it just sounds like it's... The latest reporting I saw was that Miyazaki wants to be personally involved with it, but he's very busy with, whatever they're going to do after Night Rain at FromSoft. So it just sounds like there's not enough time within FromSoft to get it done, and they don't want Sony just going off and doing it on their own. So I think that's kind of the pickle that they're in right now.
Well, the highlight of the show, though, shows that there's still plenty of originality left at Sony, specifically first party. I'm just double checking one second, but I think it might be a second.
Okay. Here, I can check right now.
Yeah, it might be.
Yes, that is a player ship. Sloop. I'm gonna watch it for a second, see if it's kind of not heading towards us right now. So I'm just gonna watch it for a sec. I don't think we need to make any sort of rash decisions yet.
Okay. Usually I'm the one who's not willing to run.
I know. I think if one of us can fish and one of us can watch that ship, because they don't seem to be turning towards us at all. So the only thing they could do is, like, if they decided to take a wide turn and come from the other direction around the island, maybe, but I don't know. That seems like a lot of effort to go through for them.
Well, I'll go fish then. I just had a long couple days since getting back from
I'll hang out on the ship.
Trip up to my parents. Anyway, so the highlight of the show was definitely Saros for me, because Returnal was awesome.
Yeah, I actually didn't really care for Returnal. I played a couple hours of it and kind of was ready to not play it anymore. But yeah, Housemarque's a good studio. I'm always excited to see what they do next.
It seems like a really good evolution of the Returnal gameplay formula. Moody third-person shooter with a sci-fi element, very Prometheus and tone. On a desert planet, though. And, we'll see what happens in 2026. It's kind of weird to announce the game for 2026 a year and a half away, but, maybe a lot of the time frames for the game industry are just not settled because people want to avoid GTA 6.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the big things with a lot of the releases this year, at least. It's like, okay, it's a sort of will they, won't they sort of thing where they say fall 2025 right now. That probably means like October-ish.
Yeah,
so yeah, people are avoiding that for now, and then like, okay, once we hear a firm date, everybody's going to get out of the way for whatever entire month that game decides to launch in, and then we'll be just kind of waiting for either that to happen or a delay. And if a delay happens, you'll probably see a lot more concrete dates for 2025 games suddenly when they decide they're safe, they're in the clear.
Yeah, well, speaking of clear dates, Clear has gotten a movie before the game is even out.
Didn't know that.
From Story Kitchen. They're the same people who made the Sonic movies, or at least bought the rights to them and then sold them around.
Right.
They have Disco Elysium, Dredge, Life is Strange, Slime Rancher, and My Friend Pedro.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely seems like the sort of thing that those sort of development deals happen with, where they kind of get a deal, try to fish for a script, and if they get a good one, they might move forward with development, but I feel like maybe all but one or two of those probably won't happen anytime soon. That's just how those development deals tend to go, where it's like, okay, we're gonna try producing something with this, but no real promises until a script is there and casting starts, pretty much.
Right, yeah.
And even then, like, casting, if you'd even get past the casting process, because I'm pretty sure that Horizon Netflix thing was pretty far along before they decided to cancel that. So,
what? They canceled it? Maybe
I'm pretty sure. I remember hearing something about that. Yeah, I remember hearing about that a few weeks ago.
I actually did remember reading something about that, but I just don't remember when.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I remember.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least the long dead Sleeping Dogs movie isn't dead. And that's the same story kitchen people. So they seem to hang on to these for a long time because they know the inherent potential of video games. And it's like, if we can scoop up a potentially interesting invest for like, I don't know, $20,000 at first. I don't know how these things work, but let's just say like something really cheap.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times these development deals start with just, let's get the IP and see if we can find a script in there somewhere. If someone's willing to either write one on spec or get, find someone to do it, and then get a script written and see how much money you're willing to pour into that, refining it. And then if they decide...
It's not working at all. I don't know why, but I cannot seem to actually fish correctly. Like, I couldn't move it in response to tension. It just was like stuck in one position. So that was weird. Guess we're starting with the bugs for this season. Whoops!
Our ship keeps drifting a little bit, so I'm trying to get us closer to that fishing spot.
Yeah, let's do that.
It seems like it's kind of a random number of fish you have to get through the spot. Because the last one we were at was like 3 or 4. This one we've definitely gotten like at least 3 out of.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of different projects might be struggling though. Like apparently the Wonder Woman game that is just in limbo right now.
Yeah, like I heard that game apparently had been fully rebooted recently. It's like, oh, that's not bad because that game was announced like 5 years ago. So if it recently got like a ground up reboot, that game's not coming out for at least 3 or 4 years.
And that's the only game that can use the Shadow of War style Nemesis system because it got patented. So that just adds to my point about how patenting game mechanics is a bad thing. Because they have that, and they don't need to differentiate it with anything else. It's Wonder Woman and people in a certain order.
I do wonder how willing they'd be willing to go after someone who did create a version of that system, though, because, I don't know, I feel like if I was an indie developer, I'd be willing to at least try and be the underdog in that story. Like, hey, I'm creating this system that's basically the Nemesis system in all but name, and let's see if WB decides to fight me on it.
Well, this kind of thing where you let your IPs go by the wayside is not unusual, unfortunately, because going back to Sony for a minute, apparently Resistance 4 was pitched but rejected by Sony, and now they really don't have to. I mean, maybe they could for the fans, but I do. Yeah, I feel like there's still room within the Sony pantheon to have that sort of shooter. Like, that's definitely their biggest deficiency right now, actually, despite it being like a pretty big strength for them in the PS3 era where they had both Killzone and Resistance going. Like, it definitely feels like they could find a studio to work on that, but at the expense of the stuff that's been working for them the past few years. So that's probably why they haven't. Like, are you going to get Guerrilla to go pull them off of Horizon to do something? Probably not. No, probably not. Horizon is the bigger IP. Just in terms of general brand recognition. But
it's something that's found its own voice rather than being also ran. I like the Resistance games well enough, but like in the wake of the Halo series and a lot of the war shooters at the time, it definitely felt like just another one of those to some extent.
Well, what it seems more likely is that Sony will just wait for GTA 6 to bail them out. Because they have the marketing. That's the thing. Like, they don't have to think of their own continuations to some of their own IPs, like SOCOM, or Resistance, or Infamous, or Apeescape. Like, well, there was one glimmer of hope that I had when there was like a frame of an Apeescape name, but it was just a tie-in thing for Metal Gear Solid Alpha.
Yeah, so they're basically, because there was an Apeescape mode in Metal Gear Solid 3, so that was a pretty cool surprise actually.
Oh, okay.
That they're like, because that's something where you wouldn't think that Sony would play ball with that, like they are with Konami. And actually, I didn't know if you saw, but for the non-Sony releases, they're actually adding in Bomberman instead. So,
yeah, I did
since
see
Sony
that.
doesn't... Yeah, so that's actually a pretty cool thing. Even if it's not a full-on new Apeescape game, it's still something. Something that definitely people were expecting. You were basically Snake in the jungle, taking pictures, I believe... trying to remember. I think you just took pictures of them, but you might have also used the net. I'm not actually... I do remember playing it 20 years ago, but it's been a very long time. Because it's never been in any of the re-releases, that's the thing. Any re-release of Metal Gear Solid 3 has never had that, so them getting it for the remake is pretty big.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, anything would be better than half the stuff that gets through the soul. Well, I'm happy that there's that there are at least game references coming that people like, and it seems like Metal Gear Solid Alpha is a release that people are excited for. So some people are
Yeah, I mean,
Metal Gear
it's
Solid
definitely more than
4,
just a re-release, because, yeah, like, they still have the second volume of the Master Collection, the re-releases of the old games come out, so I think a lot of people are really anticipating 4 being part of that. I'd be kind of shocked if it wasn't.
Okay,
Like,
so
if they're
that's
going
what
through
they're
all this
gonna do.
effort, I would assume so. Like, they haven't announced anything for that new collection. I think other than stuff people assume, like maybe the Metal Gear Acids, or a lot of the other spin-off-y stuff, because the current collection has 1, 2, and 3, I believe, right? So I would imagine they'd repackage 4 and maybe do some stuff with 5. So that game's almost... Oh,
Somebody is shooting.
okay, now they're shooting. I'm gonna get us out of here. We probably only have to... They're trying to chain shot our masks, so... Oh, they got it.
Okay,
I think our mask might go down. There.
I'm gonna hold the mask up.
Zigzagging a little bit.
Oh god.
Yep.
Oh god. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I managed it.
We're gonna have to... Hold on.
I'm pulling this up again. Okay. Very quickly. Preparing. Oh gosh. Why? I just wanted... because...
We're so close to grade 5. I just want to run. Let's just run.
Yeah, of course it's fun. But they're really fun.
Okay.
You know what? I'm just gonna...
Paired mass.
I'm
Get out of
gonna
here.
cannonball, like now. Nope, I did the wrong thing.
So I have to go down and repair. I'm trying to steer us away. I can help in a sec. I just want to get us general.
We just gotta get out of here. Oh no.
Okay.
That was close.
Someone on the ship? There's swords. They're anchoring us. They're anchoring us. I'm dead. Probably.
Alright, no, I'm trying.
We're so close to grade 5, dude.
I killed him. We can still do this.
Okay, I'm spawning back in. I'm spawning back in as soon as I can. Yeah, I definitely got a 2 good swipes on him, so you got potential below. Kudos for that. Alright, spawning back in. Bailing.
They sailed over our entire ship.
I'm just bailing. They're probably gonna get back on, but I'm just... Okay, they're setting fire. Oh, they spawned skeletons on us.
I'm dead. Great.
Okay.
So, apparently they decided to ram into us, but, like, sail over the top and just drop off that way, which is kind of badass.
Alright, I'm dead too. I got one of them, but I'm dead.
Oh, no! Oh,
Right, so that's probably it.
We just wanted to peacefully fish. Oh, I didn't even get to do the cool sharks that I wanted. No, it's okay. We'll be okay. It's not the biggest deal. I just didn't realize that there's nothing to fish and to leave us alone. I hope. Oh,
I think
but
that
the
ship's
long
already
loading
sailed.
does not bode well.
Yeah. This ship was already basically done for.
Oh,
Okay.
man. Well, we found one disgraced bounty skull. That'll start us off.
Alright. I might call it a night soon, because I have been up since 2, so...
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Or sell this one skull.
Yeah.
And carry our pig legs between our legs in different. Oh well. Oh. Some days the sea be yellower than others.
Yeah, I think we definitely spent a little too long lingering there, because we definitely could have been a little more efficient with our fishing.
Well,
I was just taking too much time repositioning the fish.
Yeah.
I think these quests are balanced for the number of people you have, and they probably want both of you, like, fishing a lot, because it's definitely, like, for these bigger ones, it's like 8 or 9 fish you have to catch.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So...
I mean, it helps a little bit. I just was also, like, trying to keep an eye out for a little bit towards the end there. And that definitely dampened our efficiency as they closed in. But still, like...
Yeah, so next time, I think we just... Well, it looks like they're getting all our fish, which at least it's going somewhere, I guess.
Treasure donated! Yeah. Well, rub it in our scales now. At least I'll get a log item for this. That's where it is. Oh wait, no, we have some fish in our
Really?
barrels. Yeah. Really?
But those aren't the quest fish, those are just regular old fish.
It's still something. You can still,
Yeah, it's something.
you can still sell that for some reputation.
Yeah, I think the quest fish are worth, like, the actual money.
Because they don't want you to just throw those in the mail or
Oh, I didn't see this island ahead of us. Bit of damage here.
Okay. I got the wheel. I think we'll be okay.
Or not. Maybe not. I think we're okay. Yep.
Going around.
We're okay.
Okay. What direction are we heading?
Straight.
Okay. I'll kill him now.
Straighten out and you're good. We're just going to Galleon's Grave, which is right ahead of us. We just have this one skull to sell anyways. Might as well get something out of it.
Oh, and before I forget, you know what the hottest new thing in game consoles is? It's skiing.
Okay.
There's not a lot of summer thing you can do with that, obviously. It's for tech adventures, like Perk 5 is one of the launch games for this. So it's for that kind of music in gaming. In consoles. Yeah, I actually don't know what price that is. If I was into that sort of game, I would be more interested. Apparently it's fully open source to allow people to create their own, which, like, that's cool. Because I would imagine that without that, there would not be a lot of games. But yeah, no pricing or anything like that yet. Just ancient dreams. But at least it's coming to me. Like, there's all sorts of music being catered to. In bad news, though, the Gold Point scheme is being discontinued for Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm gonna buy one last game voucher because they're discontinuing those two. I'm gonna buy a voucher for Donkey Kong Country Returns and Xenoblade Chronicles X. Yep. So I'm at least gonna buy one more of those to save $2. And yeah.
I think this should be the right place, right?
Yep, it is.
Okay.
We're just selling this one skull, so we just anchor here and call it a night.
Don't forget.
All right. Oh yeah, so we didn't really talk too much about what we've been playing, but I did get a chance to play a couple hours of Avowed. I just got to Paradise and wandered around that for about an hour, doing whatever side stuff there was. But loving it so far.
So it's definitely scratching that Skyrim itch for me. Like, which is fantastic for me because I've wanted to play more of Skyrim, but then I'm like, oh yeah, actually playing Skyrim, that's funky as heck. This feels like the Skyrim that I had in my head. Again, as opposed to what Skyrim actually was, which was often buggy and very clunky to play. There's still some clunkiness here and there, and I don't particularly agree with the skull system even after the balance patch, because it can be very tricky to know what you actually like are able to take on, at least at first. But also I had been bad at upgrading my weapons and stuff. So once I did a few things of that, it's still common quality, but they have been performing a lot better. I also just really like using guns in this game. It really is Skyrim with guns.
Yeah, I just got the basically shotgun type weapon. I'm like, oh, this is weird, but cool.
Arquebus?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
That's more like a rifle, like a sniper rifle, because
I've been using it as a shotgun. I've just been getting right in there with it.
That works too. That works too.
Yeah.
What I've been doing is I've been using the snares, and then using magic missiles when they're trapped in there, and then slamming them with a headshot. That works too, but the beauty of Avowed's combat system, though I can start to see how it could get repetitive like Skyrim did, you know, just like going across the overworld and facing repetitive monsters and stuff like that, but like just being able to mix and match so much more, even just with the guns being added, really helps. I like using Wand and Spellbook, or Grimoire. There's this Grimoire, Bethel's, I think, that allows you to do lifesteal, which is very helpful for me because I constantly take damage. But I'm very mobile in that regard. Doing that with the pistol is helpful. Same with the wand. Wand and pistol dual combo, wand and spellbook dual combo, wand and shield. Just like any dual wielding in that regard is something that I really enjoy. And really, the strong point is the writing, because I'm tackling similar themes of imperialism from a different angle, a very steampunk angle. So to have it in a colonial punk, for lack of a better word, like 17th century punk type of world in the age of gunpowder is very interesting, because the dynamics feel very realistic for the world, and you know, the mystery of who you are and why you have the godlike powers you do is also intriguing. You seem to have a lot of forces on your side that can happen in these kind of games. But there's a lot of freedom in the dialogue. And realism, too. So, like, Avowed seems like a big triumph for me. I've basically been playing that and Infinite Wealth as my main games. And that's amazing. Because, like,
Yeah, so...
It's good to feel engaged by big story-based games again.
Yeah, like, for Infinite Wealth, so I just started Pirateyakuzainhawaii. I took a trip to New Zealand to play a little bit today. Game does...
Virtually.
That game does straight up spoil Infinite Wealth's, not necessarily the ending, but a lot of the plot of it pretty early on, so I definitely advise you, like, if you care about the plot of Infinite Wealth, just finish that game first.
I pre-ordered it physically from GameStop to just have it on hand, but I just finished Chapter 5 of Infinite Wealth.
Okay.
With the haunted Hawaii labyrinth dungeon, which was very cool.
Right.
That was the tutorial dungeon, I'm sure, but like...
Yeah.
The music
there's a couple more
hard.
like that. Yeah.
And for the Aloha Happy Tours, you know, the guy who has a pineapple costume on.
Yeah.
That is amazing music too. And then I'm still thinking about some of the other music that I've listened to. So, man,
I'm glad you're still enjoying that, because yeah, it's yeah. So Pirate Yakuza has been pretty good so far too. I'm still very early in that. I basically played maybe 45 minutes. Basically did the very intro part. Hasn't really opened up yet, but plays well.
I didn't have a lot of time for video games between binging Rome with my parents. Fantastic TV show, by the way. Classic for a reason. R.I.P. to Polo's actor. But, like, I did play a bit of the demo for Pirate Yakuza, and it was like, okay, yep, this is basically the team got bored and decided to remake Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Yeah, like, the combat's definitely... It makes me wonder if this is kind of the combat team that made the Judgment games, rather than the team that had been working on, like, Yakuza 6 and stuff.
Right.
And Yakuza Gaiden, because the combat feels much... The combat feels much more Judgment style in terms of fluidity.
It's... Okay, so the land combat is very real-time, and that real-time feel in the classic Yakuza games, the Judgment games, and this has never felt good to me. I'm sorry. Does it mean it's bad? No, it's just I've never really got into it, and like, there is just a lot of overstimulating noise with Pirate Yakuza, you know, particles everywhere approach.
Yeah.
I mean, the main draw is the ship combat though, so I'm fine with that, and like it here, like this. It still definitely shares the engine that they have, because it seems like the map for Hawaii is pretty much one-to-one.
Yeah, I mean, that's their famous engine reuse. That's how they're able to make this game so quickly. It's like, well, we can just set some of it in Hawaii. Yeah, and that map was huge. Like that map, that Hawaii map was so huge. It's like, oh, of course they're gonna reuse that at least one more time. They're not just gonna one and done that one.
I'm just figuring out how large it is myself, in the current game, in Infinite Wealth. So, I'm looking forward to all of that, to just like jumping straight into Pirate Yakuzainhawaii once it comes in a couple days, and hopefully I finish this game.
You're not going to finish Infinite Wealth in a couple days. I can tell you that.
Okay, well.
Like, if you said you just finished Chapter 5, you are nowhere near the end.
Well, I've heard that there's
a lot of game
chapters,
left.
so I was kind of figuring it out that way. But,
yeah, I would say maybe you're a third of the way. Like, there's those later chapters, and it can also depend on how much side stuff you do. I guess if you mainline it, maybe you could get it done in 30 hours.
I've been mostly mainlining, but the whole dungeon thing was a sub-story, I think. So
Yeah, but there are required sub stories like that for the tutorial stuff. So, but yeah, I would say minimum 30 hours. If you did some side stuff, more like 50 to 60. If you did everything, more like 80.
Well,
And
I'd
that's
have to
where I
double
landed
check
because I
real
did
quick
everything.
how much time I've actually put in on my deck. I think it's actually still paused. I had I have played 9 hours of this game in 2 weeks. So, and I've probably put in a few more hours before that. So, like 13 hours.
I was gonna say, yeah. So I would
Maybe I
say
did a
definitely
little,
at least
extra
30
side
hours
stuff.
more.
So, oh
Yeah.
man. Alright, well, I'm here for it, because that story is really gripping me. Like, I just saw the little side phone conversation that a certain female member of the party is having.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I was like, no, I was beginning to trust you!
Yeah. So there's that, and then yeah, the only other thing I've been besides Velocro, but we don't have to get into that. But I did play the first third or so of the first half of Lost Records. Yep. That's really good so far too. I've played like 2 hours. It sounds like it's 6 or 7 hours. So, like the one thing that's impressed me the most is the camcorder stuff. That stuff is really interesting. That's how they basically they. So in Life is Strange, you know how Max had her camera and she would take pictures of things and collectibles. In this, it's a bit more freeform because you have a camcorder and you can record certain things, and when you record a certain number of them, like let's say there are different categories. Like one of them is like, hey, different types of small animals, and you find some small animals in different places. You don't have to record all of them, but once you record a certain number of them, you can basically edit it into a little video collage.
Oh,
and it's got a really cool VHS filter on it. That honestly is one of the more impressive ones I've seen. Like, it looks, when you actually watch the recording back, it almost looks like real. It's like really impressively done.
Wow.
So that's the main differentiator as far as collectibles go, is that's how they do it, and it kind of adds a bit more of your own touch to it. And other than that, like the story is definitely more, so far at least, more like interpersonal, character based than Life is Strange, which has sort of had more like, hey, we got to go do this thing now to do this thing.
Stakes.
Yeah. So far, maybe it's just this first bit of the game where you're kind of getting all the character introductions, because there are, the main group of 4 characters. You have to kind of build those. And it also flashes forward and back the 27-year gap pretty often. Like, pretty much scene to scene, like, you're flashing forward then flashing back again. So you're seeing a lot of, like, non-linear storytelling too, which is interesting, and a lot of, like, allusions to things you might not see that had happened in the past that the future characters are talking about. So it's doing some cool stuff so far. I'm probably going to play more of it tomorrow since I have some more free time. But that's mostly what I've been up to.
That's cool. I really feel like I need to play or get off the controller when it comes to Life is Strange double exposure. And if I get rid of that super early and use trade credit to help with that, then I probably will get it sooner. But for now, Lost Records is just on my wish list.
Yeah, I've been very much meaning to get back to double exposure, because, like, I think the last time we talked a lot about it, I was kind of at the point where I heard the game a bit of a downward slide, so I'm kind of curious to see how I feel about that, because I'd already been kind of not looking forward to where the story might have been going, but I don't know. I definitely want to get back to that, because I don't have really... I had a pretty positive impression of the 2.5 episodes that I played, so...
Yeah, and I had a more negative impression so far. But I want to give it more of a chance because, like, I really do love these characters, and I love Max, and I want to see where her story goes.
Yeah, like,
but,
I didn't necessarily need a new Max game, but I it feels like, so far, from what I played of it, they could have done a lot worse. So, I'm not very upset about it.
You know, like, in the meantime, the reason why Avowed starts with a bunch of Obsidian characters in lava is because Obsidian's back is broken from carrying an Xbox. So I do not mind if I end up getting stuck more in Avowed and it takes a really long time for me to finish Life is Strange. Anyway, you have a good one. When's the next day you'll be free, do you think?
So I'll be working the weekend, maybe Sunday, alternatively maybe Monday. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm just trying to see when Split Fiction comes out again.
It's definitely next month. I think it's like March 2nd. It's very soon. It's sooner than you would think.
It is March 6th, so yeah,
okay.
Let's see. Out of the lines. Like, yeah, okay. I feel like, we can have our next show be Split Fiction. And just, like, relax on Monday. We'll see. But yeah.
Yeah, I have to look up when, like, I don't have my work schedule that far out yet, so I'll just have to figure out what day would work for the show that week, but I should be able to find some time.
And you'll be back from Universal again by then, or, right? Or is that
Disney.
Am I thinking of a different, or Disney, excuse me.
Yeah. No, we're going at the end of March. March 30th.
For Disney.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Never mind,
Yeah.
well.
So I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. Another
right.
couple weeks of
Have a good one.
craziness behind us with the gaming industry. You have a good